Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something completely different.
Yeah, we really are.
We are stripping away the polite veneer of modern society, the stuff you usually hear on the news or in corporate HR meetings, and we're taking a raw, unfiltered look at the state of masculinity.
Right. It's a heavy one today.
It is. We are diving headfirst into an ebook that is honestly less of a self-help guide and more of a survival manual for the modern man. It's called No Skill Guys Toughening Yourself Up by Conrad Riker.
A very intense read.
Absolutely. And before we even get started, I need you to do something. If you want us to keep bringing you this kind of hard-hitting, unfiltered analysis that the algorithm usually tries to bury, hit that like and subscribe button right now.
Yeah, it really helps us keep the lights on and keep doing these deep dives.
Exactly. And also, this is an ultra-long, fascinating review of Riker's manifesto. We're only going to scratch the surface here, so I urge you to check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books immediately to buy the ebook so you can get the full strategy.
You're definitely going to want the full blueprint because, survival manual really is the right phrase here. I've read a lot of books on gender dynamics, sociology, self-improvement, and Riker isn't pulling any punches.
No, he is not.
This is a massive, incisive manifesto targeting men who feel like the deck is stacked against them. If you've ever felt like the rules of the game have changed without anyone telling you, or that you're playing a game you were explicitly designed to lose, this is the deep dive for you.
So true. We are talking about what he calls the nice guy trap, the capture of our major institutions by ideologies that Riker argues are hostile to men, and the tactical steps to build yourself into a sovereign man.
And just to pause here for a second, we always want to be super clear with our listeners. The book gets into some highly politically charged territory, left wing, right wing, all of it.
Right. And we are not taking any sides here.
Exactly. We are entirely impartial. We're not endorsing the viewpoints of the content. We are simply reporting on the ideas contained in the original source material. Our job is just to unpack it for you.
Well said. So let's unpack this. The central premise here is that men are being sold a lie, a very specific, very damaging lie. Riker argues that society, from your teachers to the movies you watch, tells men that being nice, being vulnerable, apologizing for taking up space, that this is the key to success and love.
Right, the whole narrative of just be yourself, be sweet, be a male ally, listen more than you talk.
But Riker says this is a trap. He argues this advice leads straight to resentment, invisibility, and failure.
He explicitly calls it the nice guy lie. The core conflict Riker identifies is that men are conditioned to behave one way, to be sensitive and repress their aggression. But the reality of biological attraction and societal respect rewards the exact opposite.
So it's a bait and switch.
Completely. He argues that nice guys don't just finish last, they get crushed by a system that actually despises weakness while pretending to celebrate it.
Yeah.
You're told women want a soft, vulnerable man, but Riker argues that if you actually become that, you become repulsive to the very people you're trying to attract.
And he backs this up, right? He doesn't just throw this out there based on bro science. He brings in evolutionary psychology, citing researchers like David Buss. This brings us to a concept we see a lot in the manosphere hypergamy. How does Riker define that in this text?
This is a really crucial pillar of his argument. Hypergamy, the way he breaks it down, is the idea that women are biologically wired to seek status, resources, and dominance.
Not sensitivity.
Exactly. He looks at it purely through the lens of evolution and survival. For hundreds of thousands of years, pregnancy meant extreme vulnerability. A woman couldn't fight off a threat or secure food alone, so she evolved to select the man who could provide protection.
And his point is that biology doesn't care about modern political correctness.
Right. Those ancient circuits are still firing in the brain. So even if a woman consciously says she wants a sensitive poet who splits the chores, her biology is still scanning the room for the guy who can, kill the bear.
The guy who commands the room.
Exactly. And Riker has this brutal data point in the text about dating apps to prove this. It's like a modern quantification of hypergamy. He cites statistics showing that women on these apps rate something like 80% of men as below average in attractiveness.
That stat always blows my mind. 80%. If you think about the math on that, if you're just an average guy with a decent job, you're nice, you're in okay shape, you are statistically invisible.
Yeah, it shows a winner-take-all market. While men distribute their ratings fairly evenly across a bell curve, women are competing almost entirely for the top tier, the top 20% or even 10% of men who have the resources and the status.
So the nice guy who plays by society's rules is left fighting for scraps because he hasn't triggered that biological competence switch. And this leads right into what the book calls the double bind. I think every guy listening has felt this.
Oh, absolutely. The double bind is a control mechanism.
Yeah, let me jump in on this one because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Society is constantly telling men that toxic masculinity is the root of all evil. So if a man acts with traditional assertiveness or dominance, he's labeled toxic and punished.
He's told he's part of the patriarchy.
Right, so he suppresses it, he tries to be the good, vulnerable, nice guy. But then, and here's the bind, if he actually does that, he is rejected for being weak. Riker argues that society has a visceral disgust reaction to weak men.
You're punished for being strong, and you're rejected for being weak.
Exactly, and there's that story in the book about Dave.
Dave.
Yeah.
That felt less like an anecdote, more like a tragic case study.
Walk us through Dave.
Dave is Riker's archetype of the nice guy failure. This is the guy who did literally everything the modern world told him to do. He was the supportive husband, he took paternity leave, he did more than his share of the chores, he cried in front of his wife because he thought that was emotional intimacy.
He was the perfect ally.
And what happened? His wife completely lost all attraction to him. Riker argues she didn't even consciously decide to. Her biology just couldn't respect him anymore. She eventually divorced him, took the kids, and he was financially ruined by the courts.
Wow.
Riker uses Dave to show that following the mainstream narrative is a disaster for men. He contrasts Dave with the bad boy or alpha archetype, the man who maintains boundaries and commands respect. Women might say they want a Dave, but their actions favor the guy who is a challenge.
It's the gap between what is polite to say and what is biologically true, but the book doesn't stop at dating. If it was just a dating manual, it would be one thing. But Riker argues this programming is systemic. Let's look at the history of our institutions. Riker claims they've been captured.
Yes, and this is where the book shifts into a heavy cultural critique. Again, impartially reporting his stance here, he argues that institutions like schools, courts, and the workplace used to build men up. They valued competence and merit. But he says they've been captured by feminist and Marxist ideologies.
He claims they are now actively hostile to the nature of men. The education system section was nuts.
He basically argues schools are factories designed to crush boyhood. He uses the term pathologizing boyhood.
Because boys are naturally high energy.
Right. They take risks, they play rough. That's how they learn hierarchy and limits. But schools have removed the outlet for this. Recess is shorter, competition is seen as bad, everyone gets a trophy. Sitting still for 8 hours is the only metric of a good student.
And when a boy inevitably can't sit still,
he gets diagnosed. Riker points to the skyrocketing rates of ADHD in boys. He argues the system takes natural male energy, labels it a disorder, and drugs boys into submission. He sees this as a deliberate attempt to turn potential warriors into compliant, docile workers.
It's like sanding down the rough edges that actually make men useful later on. And then if you make it through school and get married, you face the legal system, the divorce industry.
That chapter is a wake-up call. He describes family courts as pure wealth transfer systems.
He cites that women initiate 70 to 80% of divorces.
70 to 80%. And they win the vast majority of custody battles.
He used this term, the provider paradox, or the ATM concept.
Yeah, the system expects men to provide the resources, alimony, child support, but denies them authority or respect in the family unit. Riker calls it state-sponsored robbery. You become an ATM for a family you aren't allowed to lead. He argues it extracts resources from men to fund female independence.
It's a heavy, heavy concept, and we see this dynamic in the workplace too. We always hear about the glass ceiling for women, but Riker flips that entirely and talks about the glass cellar.
The glass cellar. That is such a powerful image, and you never hear it in mainstream media. It refers to the dirty, dangerous, invisible jobs that actually keep civilization running.
Yeah.
Mining, construction, deep-sea fishing, logging.
And what's the statistic he drops there?
93% of workplace deaths are men. 93%.
Unbelievable. Riker's argument is that society relies entirely on male disposability. We are perfectly fine with men dying to keep the lights on and the bridges standing. But then in the corporate boardroom, we criticize male privilege and push DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies.
Which he criticizes sharply.
Yes, he argues those policies are just affirmative action to promote women over competent men. He highlights the absolute hypocrisy of demonizing masculinity while sitting in a climate-controlled building built by men, using electricity generated by men, protected by men.
You can't demonize masculinity while relying on men to do the dying in the building. So the biology is against the nice guy, the institutions are against him, it's bleak. But the book pivots here.
Thus, Riker doesn't want you to just sit around and be a victim. He moves to the solution, building the sovereign man.
Right, rejecting victimhood entirely. The goal is to build an anti-fragile system, meaning you don't just survive stress, you get stronger from it. And the first pillar of this is wealth weapons.
I love that too.
Me too. It's about financial dominance. Riker is clear that money isn't just about greed, it's authority, it's armor.
He's talking about having go-to-hell money.
Yeah.
If you have one job and HR decides a joke you made is offensive, you're dead. You lose everything.
Oh.
So Riker advises building multiple income streams, side hustles, businesses, investments. Avoid debt like the plague, because debt keeps you compliant.
And protecting those assets, because if the system is designed to take them, you have to play defense. He mentions prenups and trusts.
Exactly. Since he views the legal system as a wealth transfer mechanism, you have to make yourself essentially unsuable.
Then there's the second pillar, physique power, or the temple doctrine. Now, listeners might just think this means go to the gym, but Riker goes way deeper.
It's not about health or looking good at the beach. It's about evolutionary signaling. Riker claims that physical presence, muscle mass, size, triggers a biological response that completely overrides woke ideology.
It's a biological hack.
Totally. You can talk about toxic masculinity all you want, but when a physically imposing, capable man walks in, the lizard brain takes over. Men respect him. Women are attracted to him. He says your body is your primary instrument of will. If you look weak, the world treats you as weak.
It's the one authority you carry everywhere. You can lose your money, but not your physical frame. Which brings us to the next pillar, brotherhood bonds. And he makes a huge distinction here between modern therapy circles and what he calls war councils.
He really hates the therapy circle concept. He says men sitting around validating each other's feelings and victimhood is just shared weakness. The lone wolf is a myth that gets you killed, so you need a tribe, but it has to be a war council.
What does that look like in practice?
It's about accountability. He talks about the Iron Council or the Mower Gang concepts. Groups of men bonding through shared hardship and competence. They live together, train in jiu-jitsu, build businesses, and they critique each other brutally.
So if you're failing, they don't say it's okay.
No, they say fix it. You are slacking. The bond comes from the pursuit of excellence and tribal survival, not sharing insecurities.
Doing over-talking, I love that. And the
Yeah.
final pillar is frame control. This is the mental operating system.
Frame control relies on stoicism. It's a mental fortress. Riker's rule is never show vulnerability to those who will weaponize it against you. He argues that in today's world, an apology isn't polite, it's an admission of guilt and a signal for the mob to attack.
He uses some highly controversial examples here, like Kyle Rittenhouse and Johnny Depp.
Again, just reporting his examples, he argues the media and courts attack these men viciously, but because they maintained their frame, stayed factual, and refused to apologize or appease the mob, they survive.
So maintaining frame is refusing to accept the nice guy guilt trip.
Yes. You have to be the author of your own reality.
So zooming out, we start with the nice guy trap, see how the institutions are rigged, and then Riker hands us this sovereign man blueprint. Wealth, physique, brotherhood, frame.
It's a call to embrace biological imperatives rather than fighting them. Are you going to be a broke, lonely statistic who played by the rules and lost? Or will you do the painful work to become the prize?
That is the ultimate challenge. And it leaves me with a thought that builds on all this. We've talked about individual survival, but if you think about it on a macro scale, if every man just complies and plays the safe, invisible, nice guy role, what happens to civilization? The men who pushed humanity forward, the explorers, the builders, the inventors, they were all risk takers who imposed their frame on the world. If we condition that out of men entirely, we might not just be looking at a generation of unhappy guys. We might be looking at the stagnation of human progress itself. That's something to mull over.
That's a profound point. The stakes might be much higher than just your personal dating life.
Exactly. Now, for everyone listening, if you want the unfiltered truth from the source, you need to follow the author. Go to Substack right now and follow @Conrad Riker.
And we barely scratched the surface today. We couldn't even get to his chapters on digital dominance or crisis mastery. So please, go check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books immediately to buy No Skill Guys Toughening Yourself Up. You really need to read the whole thing to get the full strategy.
Get the blueprint. And if you appreciate us breaking down these red-pilled, unfiltered sources, please like and subscribe to the podcast. It tells the algorithm to let us keep going.
Thanks for joining us in this one.
Until next time, stay anti-fragile.
See you next time.